Rick, welcome
Hey,
to the webinar.
thanks for having me.
I'm super excited to be hosting this with you. So thank you everybody for joining. Uh, we're waiting for everybody to come, so a few minutes of delay here, but uh, super excited to host this webinar of one of our first series to do the Bits to Atoms, series one, and we're going to talk about the future of construction. How do we gap bridge between lagging to predictive insights? And I'm joined by an amazing host here, which is Rick Khan, who I've known for quite a while, and super excited to be doing this together, Rick.
Yeah, me too.
So let's talk about the quick agenda of this webinar. I'm going to walk you through what does bits to atom means, because I got some questions around what does it mean, Niran? And then we're going to go back and forth with Rick and I. We're going to talk about some of the industry challenges that he saw with 25 years of experience in different roles and responsibilities, Rick, and some of mine as well, and how, the path of working in different countries and building quant. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then the thing that brings us all together are community and collaboration and the outcomes as we see where it's going to go in the future, right? So we're going to talk about that. So stay with us. It's going to be exciting next 55 minutes. So let me start with what does bits to atom mean, actually. So there was a famous saying from our one of our favorite philosophers slash investor, Peter Thiel, from PayPal Hall of Fame, where Peter talks about we were promised a flying car and all we got was 14 characters, like you know. And and I think that our industry, construction industry, is where that connection between the computer engineers and data scientists writing codes, where things are getting built, like airports and hospitals that actually impacts our life. That's where the connection happens in our industry. And both of us, Rick and I, have been working for industry for quite a while to fall in love with the industry and seeing the changes that happen. And moreover, the impact that it can have in our industry is so massive that it it really keeps me going every day in the morning to make this impact in this industry that we all love, actually. And I was doing a podcast last week, and he mentioned to me about how quant is one of the only technology that enables him to see that things are getting built. I can walk around New York City or around the country and say, oh, look, I worked in that airport, I worked in that building, so I'm excited to be presenting this. I hope to do more of this and bring more amazing guests like Rick. And so, Rick, what was the first one?
Yeah.
Um, so I'll let Rick talk about, his amazing career in the last 25 years. Rick, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah. So I'm Rick Khan. I've been in the industry for about 25 years. I grew up in a construction world. My dad was a mechanical contractor in Brooklyn, New York. And at a young age of 15, my dad started bringing me on the job site on every little vacation we had. We didn't go away on vacations. I worked. So he taught me the trades. I was a pipe fitter foreman by the time I was in college. So I worked through college when I went to NJIT in Newark, New Jersey, studying architecture. I was always been a creative person, but what I learned from my father is he's like, look, I don't want you to come out here and work as hard as I do and my folks do. I want you to come back and help us work smarter, not harder, and safer. I remember having lots of injuries, pipe fitting, whether it's flux falling in my eye or getting burnt or whatnot. And I saw firsthand a lot of the challenges that the folks in the field faced. And again, my dad was like, "Come back and help us work better." So that was instilled in me really early on. And I went to school for architecture. I was very creative and interested in designing the right way so we can build the right way. And I kind of went into the field, really leveraging 3D technology in the early 90s, and trying to find ways to build details more effectively so they can be built easier. Trying to understand the overlapping of different membranes and how things are fastened, and really starting to apply that in the design phase. And what my leaders realized was, hey, you're more fit for construction administration. So go work in the field with the construction team. And I learned more on one project than I learned the 3 years that I was in the architectural profession. Before I sat for my license, I realized that, hey, I want to go do more of this 3D technology and learn. So I kind of shifted over to the computer graphics industry and learned lots of new ways to leverage 3D technologies in terms of configurators. I worked on video games like Gran Turismo, and worked on movies and commercials where we digitized, cars and things like that to apply to movies um, and commercials. And all of that was innovation, even in architecture. And then, in about 2005, I saw this ad for construction and using technology, and it was at Mortenson. And I landed that job, and it was like my dream job. It was taking all the innovation that I've learned over the last, 7 or 8 years, and applied it directly to construction. Um, I started in the BIM and VDC phase, which I always thought BIM and VDC was innovation. And from the get-go, from 2005, I was privileged enough, and found the most reward in my career by leading a community of practice and moderating it and bringing people together and working on shared challenges and innovating year after year. And over my career, I've really focused in on how do we help people, how do we focus on process, and then leverage technology to truly focus on the future of how we design and build. So that's a little bit about me. I'm a father of two budding innovators. I play the ukulele. I surf whenever I can, although I live in Minneapolis right now. But that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, I remember you lived in Hawaii a little bit and you were surfing, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think, yeah, I bought my son a ukulele actually inspired by you
No, thanks.
as well, actually. Yeah. I remember during COVID, you were posting a lot of videos about, and that actually inspired me to make some music at the time as well. So, it's not just construction, Rick. I'm inspired by your musical elements as well.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah. And I think I don't need to talk about more about myself, but one of the common thing, Rick, is that my undergrad is architecture actually,
Mhm.
and I think that love for building was so deeply inside of me that I actually like thought like that buildings is how we are shaped actually, and I have deep appreciation for art and architecture, which we seem to have lost a little bit in today's world actually, but we can talk about it in a bit. Um, but I think from my side, I've worked in 7 different countries, in 3 continents. I'm in some of the largest projects in the world. I think we were building bridges and roads in North Africa and Ivory Coast, and having to translate between like French, and I mean, I could hardly speak French, but a lot of good experiences there, and led me to build Quant along the way here, learning like what is missing, right? And I think that one of my early experiences was I was working on this massive $3 billion construction project in New York City, Manhattan, where we were doing the subway project. And one of the big we had to go there on a weekly basis to understand how many workers were there. And I was in the project controls department, and I would get a report from the field about like, okay, this many hours was spent, this much work was done, and I'll prepare a report, using multiple different, including spreadsheets. And finally, that report will go out to the executives, and we'll make a decision about is this project going to get delayed or not, actually. And I realized that, oh wow, it took them 1 month to do this actually, and I was a part of the whole process. And I did build some software application there to automate some of this data collection. It was built on top of SharePoint, Microsoft, but that was one of the early realization to me that look, all of these reports I'm generating could be all be automated. And here we are today after several years, and excited to, be part of this story now. Yeah. So, Rick, I know that you've gone through like several phases of 25 years. You've seen papers being used and now like all the new technology being used. Can you talk a little bit more about why construction tech and why construction itself and how it impacts us?
Yeah, well, we are experiencing the slowest rate of change we will ever experience in our lifetime. And society's needs and demands are only increasing. With that, the landscape of technology and needs, whether it's ESG, city resilience, workforce housing, urbanization, electrification, all the new technologies that are coming out, um, as an industry, we are challenged with trying to keep up. There's so many things happening. Owners are, asking for net zero, and then some sophisticated owners are asking for net positive in terms of their project outcomes. And, it's requiring the AEC industry to innovate. We have to innovate to meet the needs of society. And that's where all of this really stems from, right? This is part of the challenge. But I think, trying to understand the true impacts of all this accelerating change, what does it mean for the AEC industry, the built environment? So I think, we really need to look at the impacts of, these changes and how it's impacting our globe.
Yeah, and I think we are in the middle of the whole urbanization where we're building new cities, not in the US, but I think globally there are new cities being built all over the country. We have buildings, countries and cities in Saudi Arabia right now with billions of dollars spent on NEOM and Red Sea project, right? And this only is going to accelerate more, where we're going to need better hospitals, better roads, better affordable housing. And I think that construction and construction tech, you know, is super important to help manage the change because we can't use older tools to build new housing, right? And I think that so let's talk about some of the impacts of the industry.
Yeah. I like to say necessity breeds innovation, right? We have a global impact on Earth with the AEC industry, whether it's from 50% landfill waste or air pollution, water pollution, in terms of using up natural resources of the planet. Then we have a people challenge. Construction specifically is still one of the most dangerous industries there is. We have the second highest rate of suicide compared to other industries. We have a lack of labor coming into the industry, and we have a lot of senior tribal knowledge leaders retiring in the industry. So we have some key conditions that require us to truly innovate to solve real life problems. And I think people. I like to say also, like, society enables. Construction or the AEC industry enables society to happen. Without the AEC industry, we would not have a society functioning the way it does. And I think it's critical. It's a massive multi-trillion-dollar global industry, and it affects every person in this on planet Earth. So there's some of the key impacts to the global environment.
Yeah. And I remember, Rick, meeting you about like several years ago in the Innovation Lab in Watson, where we talked about craft workers, subcontractors as trade partners and workers as craft workers, right? And I think that we want to bring back that culture of respect to the trades and respect to the subcontractors as not just a, hey, there's another subcontractor, but that appreciation of the art that they bring, right? Which is, and we talked about this earlier about how, labor shortage and how do we attract more um, new generation of workforce to our market, right? And I think we can talk a little bit about that. So where do you see some of these opportunities or challenges, right, in terms of different workforces? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's about people, right? There's three key things that stand out to me. One is, the lack of tribal knowledge transfer down to the younger generation. You know, over, by 2030, 40%, 41% of construction workforce will retire. The average age is 61, and the seasoned builders and managers, a lot of tribal knowledge that has to be transferred in order for innovation to truly happen. The other aspect is silos. We are fragmented, like everybody knows, but the silos is preventing knowledge transfer. It's preventing collaboration and limiting innovation. So, the silos are put there to manage risk, whether it's people, process, IP, or whatnot. It's there, even in the regulatory agencies create silos for us. If you look at many cities in this country, the permitting process is one of the most complex processes there is. And it just amplifies the silos that exist between the disciplines. And last but not least is the labor shortage. And I'm not just talking about construction. I'm talking about the AEC workforce. I'm talking about there's talent not coming into our industry anymore as before. We have people moving in and switching to technology companies, becoming entrepreneurs. So in one way, it's pretty exciting to see young talent go that route. But it's also, we're removing some of that great talent in our industry. And I think it's critical that we are focused in how do we attract and incentivize and recognize young talent, whether it's in high schools or universities, and really bring those people and give them a head start. So this way, when they start working in our industry, they are prepared to innovate and not just there to learn from scratch. So I think, that's a big focus of the workforce in the next 10 years.
Yeah. And when we talk about labor shortage, right, we can see that in every project that we work on, there seems to be this demand for more and more workers going on. And with the $1 trillion infrastructure bill, we're now seeing more investments into infrastructure projects, affordable housing, data centers, and EV factories or EV plants, right, to be competitive in the world right now. And you mentioned a very interesting point about attracting new talent to the workforce. Yes, and it's not that we can just skip this chapter because who's going to build all these buildings, right? And where do you think the technology comes into play in solving the problem of labor shortage?
Well, going back to the generational topic, we have a new workforce in schools that are coming out already using AI generative tools to either write information and generate videos, generate images, and it's all about data. So we have this new workforce coming in with a completely new skill set and understanding and ways to collaborate and focus on people. And that's going to clash with, the existing workforce. So we have to figure out a way to connect dots, to connect people to capabilities, to connect people to knowledge. So this way we can grow as an industry together instead of breaking, leveraging or dealing with the silos that exist. This new generation is going to come in. So for instance, here's an example, right? So new designers in the architectural work come in and they're using generative AI tools to create dozens of iterations of their design. Right now, go downstream from that. For that, right? So it goes to the construction team after engineering, and the construction team now, the architects show the owner 10, 15 different designs that they love, out of 100 versus out of 3, and now as a construction team, we have to estimate more, we have to schedule more. So if we are not using those tools alongside our designers and engineers, we're not going to be prepared for the future. So again, that generational challenge and knowledge transfer is critical for us to actually leapfrog and get into the future.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that the problem of silos is also really interesting, but I think safety is one of the other piece where bringing safety culture and bringing safety to the workforce is important so that the newer generation of workforce come to the to the industry feeling that okay, look, this is something that I can rely my life on, And you were true that like I can see lots of kids. I was talking to one of my friends who's a teacher, and they're saying many students are already using on grade 4 or 5 to use ChatGPT to write articles, or do their homeworks right now, right? So I think we should be ready for that interest, for that change, and it's coming. And I think it's a good change in a way that there will be a shift on how we're going to build, and we should just be ready for that.
Absolutely. We need to be prepared, and we need to prepare our people for that. That's the thing. It's not just being prepared, it's preparing people to be able to deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as everybody knows on this call, we are stuck in a lagging indicator environment in the AC industry where we're tracking information manually, whether it's paper, pen, Excel. There's double entry, there's all this excessive movement, there's a lot of waste in the process. And these lagging indicators are just giving us an understanding of past performance. And it helps us understand what we need to do better to influence the future performance. So you move from lagging to leading. So we've been over the last 10 years, the industry has been really focused in on how do we get to leading from a safety, from all these different productivity efficiency standpoints. And we're still capturing manual data to do this. So our people are spending time in tedious, non-value added work to just understand and analyze past performance. So that's a problem. That's a major problem in our industry.
So how do we go to skip to
Yeah.
the leading indicator?
Yeah. Here's our opportunity. An opportunity to move from manual data capture to automated data capture. We have to leapfrog over leading because with the accelerating change in the industry and the environment, we have to be prepared, and we have to prepare our people for that. And the only way to prepare is to be prescriptive, is to understand past, understand how do we move from manual data collection to automated data collection. So this way our people are spending less time on non-value added activities and more time on higher value activities, more time collaborating with other people, with vendors, with trades, with designers, more time in engaging their customer, more time finding the right or the best solution based on having the relevant information at the right place, right time, and to the right people. So we have huge opportunities here. And this is where my focus has always been 10 years down the road, right? And trying to understand where the industry is headed and trying to build a path to get there. Right? We talk about time horizon 1, 2, and 3. And I love talking about time horizon 3, which is 10, 15 years away. And what are the steps that we have to create? What's the roadmap to get to that? Right. And it's interesting as you kind of plan out that roadmap, you can set strategies in place in your organization to meet that future state. So it's pretty exciting opportunity.
Yeah. When we talk about manual data capture, translating, changing that into high value work, right? Just like you said, going to the field teaches you. I still go to the field to talk to our customers and get the feedback from what they're doing. We make a lot of decisions on product, selling, and different things. And I still hear that there are people like supers and foremen do love to go around job sites and count the number of people, or do check who's working on what, and how much work has been completed, right? And I know that all of these things is ultimately is going to needs to be automated for different, and as well as when the new workforce comes in, right? Um, how do you see this, like, change happening? Because people are still loving, they still love to go and walk around the job site. It's 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 somebody's job there, actually, like, and
Yeah.
do you see there's a conflict there, or how do you translate that there?
No, I think, we want to promote more people on their job site managing, you helping people, perform work. You're going to still have those people walking around, but maybe they'll be wearing a wearable that captures information as they walk. There's tools from a reality capture standpoint, like OpenSpace and Drone
Yeah,
Deploy and all these awesome tools out there, still requiring people to walk the job site. Why should we stop that? We need to understand what's happening so we can help people on the job site. So I don't see that ever going away.
yeah,
I just see a more effective job walk that automates, some core processes that are typically done by the superintendent or the PE at the end of the day or over the weekend, just trying to get a report out for the next day. So, I don't see job walks ever stopping.
yeah. I like that comparison because it just makes their life easier and better and faster. Like, our team uses, including myself, use Bard or ChatGPT for multiple different purposes. But we would use it for data collection, but we would verify it and use it to, we would manually verify ourselves before we put it out there. Like, so I think that that's the right way to go, right? Which is use it to make yourself better and speed your capabilities, but use ultimately it comes down upon you to do that, and how do you leverage that action.
Yep, agreed.
So let's talk about some of the automated data collection, right? And I'm sure you've tested and tried many of the solutions in the last several years. We're going to talk a little more about that.
Yeah, yeah. So, the opportunity is in these emerging technologies that, one of the key things is IoT, in terms of really helping us leapfrog into the future. IoT is still disruptive today, but not for long. Look at AI and where it's come in 2 or 3 years. It's unbelievable. So change is only accelerating. And if you're not in it today, you're going to be left behind. You're going to become obsolete. And I think that's the kind of mindset that we have to shift to. We can't just say, oh, we got to, we're focused on X, Y, and Z. If we're not focused on the future and how we're going to work, then our people are not going to be prepared for it. So it's really important that we start thinking about, an IoT is kind of like a Horizon 3, right? Topic. And as more technologies are getting built, um, they're all connected, right? We're seeing large equipment being connected. It's been around for a while, machine grade control, but even like the scissor lifts and things like that, telematics are starting to be implemented into the technology, so this way they can understand runtime and utilization, and to optimize the usage of that piece of equipment or whatnot. um, even hand tools, with battery technologies, there's lots of IoT sensors built into that, so it's already happening. So if we're not prepared, if we're not using it and testing it and trying to validate how this impacts our business, then we're not going to be ready for the future.
Yeah, it's super exciting time. And I think that when you talk about tools and equipment, I think that a lot of the tool makers are already adding some sensors on tools like Milwaukee, and guys are already trying to have the tools with sensors so they can track safety, production, like all these battery life as well. Like, and so yeah.
Yeah.
So as we move towards the future, how we see this evolution happening, and Rick, you mentioned about Industry 4.0, right? Which is where we see the future of next step is going to. I do want to spend a little bit of your time because you've seen this arc from, you know, it was paper-based processes being used in construction, like spreadsheet and everything, from first testing out like Procore, and now it's, it's an $8 billion company. Can you tell me a little bit more about your experience of implementing Procore? Was it like that seamless and easy that everybody just in the first day said, hooray, like, let's use it? Or did you see, do you have to go through a process there?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was heavy on process. This started back in 2012 at Mortensen, where we were using a kind of a legacy on-premise project management solution that was really heavily customized to the way um, they did business, and it worked for a time. And then 2000, after the iPad and all these mobile apps came out, we realized that our tool was only effective in the office, on the job site office, or the back office, and it really wasn't providing value to the people in the field, to people who have to make decisions, to people who are coordinating and managing all the trades, and really trying to drive trade flow. That's where the problem really existed. And we started to interview. We interviewed over 100 team members on job sites, from PE superintendents, PMs, and executives and safety people, and trying to understand what are the challenges they face on a day-to-day basis. And it was like, some basic things. It was, we can't do our work in the field. We don't have access to the latest information. We're finding it hard to communicate with our trades or our design partners or our owner. We lack collaboration in terms of solving challenges. RFIs take 2 weeks versus 3 to 5 days. So the core business problems existed, and we realized we needed a mobile first solution. So we started exploring the market after 6 months of trying to understand the problem and identifying some of the key business processes that we were trying to solve for. And it was all about people, improving the work experience of our people. So this way they spend more time on higher value added activities. And then we searched for technologies. There was very little technologies that were mobile first on the market, right? You had PlanGrid, you had, new evolving technologies like Procore and others coming to market. And we went to Procore because we liked a simple user interface. It had all the core business processes that we were trying to address in the solution. We ran a 3-month pilot with 3 jobs. We had nothing but stellar reviews from our owner, from our design partners, from our trade partners, and from our team. And even our project executives were like, I can just go on the mobile app and check the progress of the job. And that was never done before in the company. So quickly we moved to the enterprise solution with Procore within 12 months of starting the understanding process. And we were, at the time, we were the first top 20 GC enterprise with Procore, and Mortensen's been a partner with them ever since. So it was a really interesting time where the move from paper to digital paper, to process digital information, to innovation. It was interesting to see that from 2007 to 2016. And like 2016, it exploded with new technology, new entrepreneurs coming in the market, a flood of venture capital in the market, and there was an explosion of innovation that happened. So it was really interesting to see, to live through that time, and experience that.
It's amazing, yeah. So I know that you were part of a big community there who were inspiring new entrepreneurs to give them guidance as well as to test it out some of the early products. And I think Mortensen did leverage the fact that they were tech forward to their advantage to even grow their business, right? And I've seen many of the companies doing that right now, like Softbook does that, right? They've invested heavily into technology to now build a brand and build a market presence that's pretty big, right? And DPR as well. Like, and I think it's a evident that technology not just is a tool to better business, but actually it helps to get more business, create a better brand, attract more talent, and impact the society. Actually, like, and I think that um, construction companies investing in technology is positive from all different directions, all directions.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit more about quant here, where we talk about the IoT, right? Where, you know, even when I was there on a job site, and I still many job sites in the world, right, where we still collecting data using manual processes, where the super is, you know, and especially in large job sites where you have thousands of workers, it just becomes impossible to understand what is going on. And especially on a dynamic construction job sites where you have hundreds to thousands of workers actively working, it's literally impossible to actually have a real pulse on a project, right? So that's why the quant is was built for, to collect the real-time data from workforce, materials, and equipment so that we can make better and data decisions. And that your comparison from going to, like, manual data collection to automated data collection to become more predictive and more prescriptive, actually. So in the process of that, like, what we are right now doing is um, hyper focused on the workforce, which is we understand how skilled the workforce are, what kind of certification do they have, what kind of experience do they have, and do they have, like, the sub has a right COI to actually be present on the job site, and then use that wearables to collect other information such as movement, location, and then alerting, like any safety alerting that we have, underlying that with all the integration that we built. Like for scheduling, we have integration with P6 and Microsoft Project. For daily reports, we have integration with Procore and CMIC, right? And not pulling and pushing data from both sides. Either we can pull data from P6 and Microsoft Project or push data to Procore and CMIC, right? And other additional data that points that we are collecting is weather, like historical data of, like, how many violence do they have, how many incidents the contractor might have had, assets and documents, and then we have environment data like temperature, humidity, and how can temperature and humidity affect productivity and safety on the job site, right? So that's the data that we're collecting to then bring it all together to build this reporting dashboard that can provide predictive insights. And the outcomes that we're looking to gain is just better risk management, better increase in productivity and safety, uh, and better underwriting of worker compensation um, insurance, and pushing that data back to give higher compliance using prevailing wage report. And I think you've seen some of the things in early stages. Rick and I, we worked together on a pilot together as well. So this is where we are, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think it's really interesting and important to start with a common data platform, whether it's Procore, CMIC, Autodesk, Construction Cloud, um,
yeah,
to normalize data around core business processes, and then leveraging, your technology as a way to leverage that data platform to enhance it and create prescriptive analytics. So I think, that's the key trend that we're seeing in the industry. And I think it's really important to start with a consistent data platform.
yeah, that's. I just want to talk about some of the customers and owners themselves, like who have been able to utilize our platform to become forefront in this prescriptive and predictive reporting and construction management. Like, and one of the examples is one of the largest airports in the country, LaGuardia, where we partner with Delta. And this is where we work with about 1,500, 2,000 trade people to understand. The goal was that they wanted to open the airport on time. And to open the airport on time, we really had to understand what were the most critical trades, because we couldn't track all the 1,000 workers and say, okay, every worker is critical, but highlighting the most critical activities and zones and say, okay, this is the most critical path activity in trade person or trade company, and just highlighting that, and that being this report being utilized on executive decision making, like are we going to be on time or not? That was one of the key things we worked on. The other one was it was an active airport, so we would definitely wanted to increase safety by understanding, are people going to unauthorized areas, like they call it landside and airside, right? And there was 24 hours work going on over there, and for insurance, we need to understand what is a true labor hours on a job site. And using our system, they were able to leverage that, okay, this total hours are spent on there versus comparing that with the manual report that was provided by the people as well. That was the key lesson learned from this project.
Yeah, I think, what's really interesting, and I know you work with a lot of customers or owners like Delta. A lot of the owners are starting to really drive innovation. And I think this is a good example of like the owner wants to leverage these technologies to help them understand their capital projects and how things are going, and I think it's really interesting. And, looking at project types, I remember working on a few large scale hospitals and, some of them were, we were doing renovations or building a new wing, and disruption avoidance was critical in terms of the operations of that hospital. So I think, leveraging technologies like this could have been a really value add to that.
Yeah. Talking about owners, so Fairstead is another owner that we work with. Like, it's for the owners, the value is really immediate, right? Because for them, they need to open the airport and start earning the money, right? And I think that that's where they immediately see a value to say, okay, I need this to be open on time and have no fines. So similar to that at Fairstead, we work with them on affordable housing and projects all around the country. They are one of the leading affordable housing builders in the country right now. And one of the key challenges they have is in a lot of these job sites, they have tenants that are living while they're renovating as well. So how do we make sure that there is no unauthorized access, so there is no safety that happens or security that happens? That was one of the challenges there. The other one was, uh, you know, they are constantly moving people out to a hotel while they're renovating these apartments. So every time there's a delay, they're paying double the fee of the construction cost, as well as the cost of having these residents in a hotel. And so it was very interesting to see how can we optimize that and save them, in 1 or 2 days of that cost, because that could be, hundreds of tenants that are living in the hotel for a couple of days. That could be such a huge amount of expense, right? And in there, one of the key lessons we saw was lawless affordable housing. These units are actually similar, and we're able to compare similar floors or similar zones and use that data to then say, okay, like you're going to get delayed because it took you 40 days to build that first floor, but on a similar floor, you're actually at 10%, you spend 50% of the time. So that's the kind of insight that we're able to provide to them to become more proactive around how to turn around these buildings faster. Slightly different from the large scale project that Monson does, or but I'm sure you've seen these examples before.
Oh yeah, one of the big idea too around this automated data capture is automating pay apps. As you using reality capture to capture the evolving conditions of the job site. You're leveraging IoT to capture where workers are and understanding the crews and where they are, whether they're moving back and forth to get material or equipment. But being able to get to the point where you had X amount of crews working in the space is complete, the other trade is moving in. All right, we send out a pay app for that. It's really around tying it back into the core business processes, right?
Which is ultimately comes down to money, actually.
It all comes, yeah. A happy trade is a trade that's being paid.
Yes, that's true. So that brings to the other part where we're talking about. This is a case study we did with in our top 500 company. I think one of the largest builders in the nation. Where exactly how we use this on 4 trades, and it was a pretty extensive case study we did because we want to track every data point in here. So how do we avoid collision between 2 trades working in the same zone? when does the waterproofing come in versus when the scaffolding comes in? That how can we maintain that flow? And can we repeat that flow from one floor to the other floor was one of the key goals. And through the process, we were able to understand this early detection of a cost overrun because we were able to see that the worker is actually truly spending more time on the zone, way more than the budgeted in this area, and the overall trade is going to get delayed or you're going to go over budget. Like, and I think that that was one of the key findings in this one. The other key findings, interesting finding on this project was also, we talked about budgeted versus actuals, but in a way, we never, because this industry never still has a true understanding of what is a true productive hours on a site. Like, it's not 8 hours. It's what is a true productive hours. And we were able to get that data and say, like, okay, this was around 52% was a true production hours on real tool time versus like, getting to the coffee, filling out your form, picking up the tools, picking up materials. We found that about like 52 was the optimal. Now, we've kind of learned to live with that in a way in the industry. I know that. But even adding 5% in there could have a massive impact in the bottom line of this company, right? Isn't it?
Absolutely. Trade flow is the key performance indicator for success on the job site itself. If you can efficiently move trades through spaces and provide them, a clean space, a space that's prepared, a space that, is set up for the next trade to come in, and leveraging takt time planning and last planner to be able to drive commitments of trades and helping them through that process is critical for the success. And I think, finding tools to automate this, to understand crews and where they are and where they should be and where the breakdown is, to understand the constraints so we can go in and help them.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's really critical.
Yeah. The constraint is the important piece we brought in, and we see the constraints, on multiple places, especially on safety. So this is another example where, we've seen huge impact on the lives of construction workers. So we're using the smart badges to understand near misses and provide proactive warnings when the worker is jumping from certain height that is not allowed to, you're not using ladder properly. So this has been a big, and also understanding, like if there is a claim, was the worker really there to avoid any, fraudulent changes, making sure the job site is safer. And the outcome was that this company was able to reduce their worker compensation premium using our technology. And I think that it's ultimately it comes down to both saving lives and making sure that the workers go home safely as well, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And talking about that, I know that insurance is a big angle there where, we can't live without insurance in any business we do. I remember, you were testing a technological human condition safety several years ago, right? Can you talk a little more about human condition safety?
Oh yeah, it was so much fun. Back in, I think, 2011 and 12, Human Condition came out with a smart safety vest that had sensors all over it, whether it's pressure sensors on the shoulders, it tracked your gait. A human's gait or walk is like a fingerprint. It's unique. So you can understand workers coming in. If they're, limping, we can go and say, hey, what's going on? We just saw, we noticed that you're limping, or, do you need help? Can we help you? Or tracking location, geofencing, all these things that I'd never seen before. And we were really excited to test it. And then a large insurance company bought them, and kind of their company dissolved. But what they did was set the stage for a time horizon 3 opportunity, right? Where, like, it was the futuristic, it was future, it was, exciting, but it just wasn't the right time. But what it did was it provided the entry point for Quant and other IoT companies to really start filling in the gaps. And again, like building that roadmap to the future, you know, they kind of started that in a way, from one perspective.
Yeah, I'll call it MySpace to Facebook, and then human condition to quant, actually, at this point.
There you go. I like that.
Yeah. And I think they were too futuristic. They were trying to do too much. And one lesson I learned from talking to like people like you and doing a lot of interviews and being myself being in the field, is that simplicity is very important. You cannot make the workers charge. You cannot ask them to wear this massive vest. Although it has a lot of benefits, and also cost-wise, you have to lower it so that you can actually get a better entry point at this process. So it's a good lesson, and I think we're on the right path because we learned from the mistakes that they did, and want to repeat all those mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So let's talk about what's coming, right? So this is exactly the dashboard where we're able to highlight high risk activities, high risk zones, high risk contractors, where the decision makers are able to see what is a core risk on my project. And this is similar to how we're helping the underwriters in insurance companies to have a better worker compensation underwriting as well.
Mhm.
This is coming soon right now. And also we are working on a generative AI based reporting. I remember making this report myself and copy pasting all the different things together to make a report. Now, Quant will help the supers and the foremans to actually automate their daily reporting with all the information of the head count, where were they working, what were they working on potentially, what was the weather, what was the safety incident, and save hours and hours of work in the daily process.
Yeah. And again, leveraging this generative AI tool to automate, timely and, tedious reporting, instead of having the superintendent spend time in the field supporting and managing people is really the future. Like wearing these wearables or IoT solutions and automating this daily capture information to get to this point of automating reporting and predictive analytics is where we have to go. We need our people to spend more
Awesome.
time on higher value activities.
Exactly. So, Rick, how do these things come together? I know that you've had this massive wealth of information knowledge. How do you take it further from there?
Yeah, people hear me say this all the time, but people innovate, organizations don't innovate. So it starts and ends with people. And one of the things that, I've been focused on, and I feel like I've learned the most about in my career in our industry is, connecting people, helping them collaborate on common problems, and partnering, whether it's internally and externally, to deliver innovation is truly the name of the game, And I think if we don't focus on our people over the next decade, we will run into major challenges after 2030 with all the ESG goals or urbanization. By 2050, 70% of the population will be in kind of metro areas. So like, how do we combat that? It starts with people, helping them, be prepared for that future state.
And I know that the company that you're building right now is geared towards that, right? Which is you want to talk a bit more about your community creation at Innovate AC.
Yeah, just go back one slide real quick. I'm sorry. Yeah. So, where to start is really to start building a community within your organization. Does your community have communities of practice where your people are connected, whether it's by role or by function or um, by back office, front office, whatever? Um, have you created spaces for collaborations where cross-functional teams can actually work on common problems and innovate as a unit? Um, are you creating communities that are focused on problems to solve, not just, hey, let's get together and let me tell you what I've been working on, or it's like let's focus on an area to address, and let's share our knowledge and experience, and let's partner to accelerate innovation. That's where it really starts. It's about community. I remember back in the day, BIM Forum, the AGC BIM Forum, it was the first community of innovators in the industry that I remember. We used to get together twice a year and share best practices, connect. The people that I met then, I'm still really close with today. And most of those people are leaders in organizations now. And we all kind of grew up together. We all started sharing things, and it wasn't like we were sharing proprietary information, but we were running into problems, and I would call up my buddy in another company and be like, hey, have you dealt with this problem before? And they were like, oh no, but talk to so and so. And we just started connecting, and then we started collaborating, and then we started solving challenges together. And that's been lost over the last 5 or 6 years. Where's our community? Where is it? I don't, we have all these conferences. Only a few select people go to conferences. So it's for the elites conferences. Where is our community? So I'm really focused in on building a new community where it integrates our people. It connects people to knowledge, to capabilities out there, whether it's investors, whether it's entrepreneurs, whether it's technology companies. We're creating one space to be able to do that. And it doesn't really exist. It's not LinkedIn. It's not Facebook. It's a social business group focused on accelerating innovation. So that's kind of focused on community.
And Rick, you and I also met at a community event,
That's right.
actually.
We met 2011, 12. I remember we were, it was in the evening. We were in the lounge. You came up and
It was in Chicago. It was much later than that, but yes.
yes,
Yes. So
yes.
communities are important for inspiration, for learning, right? And just to go in the right direction, and great. I'm excited about your forum.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to talk more about how that all that comes together?
Yeah. When you think about community, it's around a collective of pursuing results and transformation. It's about building new practices together. It's about navigating rapid change. And I talked about a little bit about connecting people, but, again, when I was at Mortensen, I helped lead and facilitate the IDAT community, the Integrated Delivery Advancement Team. And it was made up over 100 cross-functional team members, whether it's mathematicians, computer science people, mechanical engineers, architects, pre-construction folks, leaders. It was a community driven by the practitioners, sponsored and supported by leadership. It was a ground up innovation team, and we innovated almost every quarter as a unit. We standardized our processes, and then we started innovating on those processes. We started moving from 3D to data, where data and 3D became a way to drive reporting and updating of progress. And it was exciting. And I had the greatest experience. The people that I worked with, I'm still really close with. We formed a community. That community still exists at Mortensen, but the external community exists as well. So, it's really exciting to see a community of practice really focus in on the future.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're launching this. Congratulations. I'm excited about to be part of that as well in the future.
Yeah.
So tell us about, is it a platform? Is it a website? What is it?
Yeah. So go to the next slide real quick. So what it is an online community platform that really is a hub and spoke model where we have the industry professionals, AEC industry professionals, that connects to emerging talent, students. We want to bring our students in early on to start building a network, start learning from the best practices from industry experts. We're going to create a learning and development section where we have learning topics every month. And, the host or the moderator will provide a quick intro or a discussion or some training courses around that. And the community can add to that, provide resources, say, hey, have you thought about this? And the goal is to create a new best practice as a community. We will also be doing R&D with students. I think while I was at Mortensen, I was part of the SciFi organization, the PACE organization at Penn State. The SciFi organization is out of Stanford, and over 15 years, we were involved in multiple research projects. Some of them resulted in industry technologies like Alice Technologies with Renee Marcos. We did multidisciplinary optimization, generative design uh, research in 2013 with Forrest Flager. And it was there that we started to understand the ability to partner with academia, industry, and technology can truly drive innovation. And we want that to be part of our community. We're going to have our technology partners there. Instead of like selling or we're creating a technology exchange, so technology partners can have their own space where they host their own events all in the same community platform. So now we have, instead of having disparate information and technology vendors, investors, and industry organizations, it's all going to be in one place. So our community can have a better integrated experience. And the goal is to create a community, whether it's the United States or a global community. And this exists in different forms, but a lot of the forms that exist, whether it's LinkedIn, it's really about networks. It's really about connecting people, but it's not about solving problems. It's not about connecting people, collaborating on common problems, and the result, the outcome is new practices. And that's the ultimate goal of our new community.
And this is the link, Rick, is the Innovate AEC/community.
Yeah, it's just a link to my website that just provides some overview on it. And yeah, we're rolling out the platform in Q1 of next year. So in the next 3 months, I'll be reaching out to academic partners, technology vendors, investors, professional service providers like BIM consultants or strategy consultants, and they're all going to be part of our network. So our industry experts, our students can have access to those entities to learn and grow as a unit.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to be a part of that.
Yeah, it'll
Cool.
be fun.
So I guess we couldn't come to an end here. For Innovate AEC, there's a link, and feel free to reach out to Rick directly from LinkedIn as well, right? We look forward to your new platform coming up in 2024. As of Quant, here is a QR code to sign up and start trying this out if you haven't already. And please give us a feedback. Keep joining our webinars in the future and keep innovating. And thank you so much, everybody. I guess we don't have time for question and answer, but if somebody wants to reach out to us via email, reach out. Right, Rick?
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.